Guys, our players, they can feel that. They've been hearing about the Crosstown Shootout, about the Xavier game every day since they arrived here this summer. And, the guys that have been here are aware of it. And so they'll feel the build up and the energy this week.
It all comes back to how ready you are, how hard you work to be ready, and that is our responsibility.
Sean, you were a part of this game for 8 years, and then obviously you were away from this game for 13 years. What have you missed about it?
Well, first of all, it's a game like no other that I've been a part of. Rivalries, UCLA, Arizona, or Arizona State, Arizona. Been in different games, but I think some of it is just a lack of conference affiliation. We play each other one time a year, not twice or three times. The game's either away or home. It has more of a college football bowl game feel to it. It means a lot to the city. It means a lot to people that attended both the University of Cincinnati and obviously Xavier. So there's so much pride that's at stake. It's hard to duplicate that feeling with another matchup or series, certainly that I've been a part of. So what I've missed, I don't know what I've missed. It's a difficult task. I think you want to win the game, but you also want to be very responsible. You want to be ready for the game. You want your team to play well, play with a lot of energy, and I think in some ways that becomes our responsibility as the coach and a member of the team.
I know what your schedule is like, and I'd imagine that when you were at Arizona, it was probably hard to keep tabs on this, but were you curious about this result when you were away? Was this a game that you tried to watch if you could?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes I was able to watch, sometimes not, but I always followed it because, I've always had a special place in my heart for Xavier. And, once you're a part of the Crosstown Shootout, as a player, a coach, and even a fan, I think you're aware that it's a big game.
How do you explain to new guys like Souley and Dez and Cam what this game means, what it's all about?
You try your best. I don't think it's about downplaying it, that it's another game, because it isn't. It's a really big one. It's very meaningful, like I just mentioned. And, you try to have your practices and your preparation, reflect that this is very, very meaningful, that everything we do is very important. And in particular, as we approach, closer to Saturday. But I will say not until a player's in the game do they realize, I think the intensity of it and what we describe to them. And in our case, it's also our first true road game. We've been obviously in Portland, where we played away from home in a different time zone against 3 quality programs. But there's nothing like going to an away court. So not only is this the Crosstown Shootout, it's also our first road game. So in Cam and Dez's case, you try to explain to them what it's like in college to go and play away from home, where you only have each other and you have the crowd against you. So I think we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here on Saturday. But it all comes back to how ready you are, how hard you work to be ready, and that is our responsibility.
What stands out in this game as what might end up deciding it? Like, what's really important in terms of how this one's going to play out?
Well, I think it starts on offense for us, and that is just to make sure that we do as good of a job as we can of valuing and taking care of the ball. In other words, limiting our turnovers. A bad shot taken at the wrong time by the wrong player is like a turnover. So, when you're shooting the ball, shot selection, being able to play long stretches without turning the ball over, I really believe this in every road game, especially against good teams. That's the starting point, because if you're able to do that well and limit turnovers, transition opportunities for the home team, there aren't as many. And I think that's what we want to do. I think just watching UC, they have a lot of firepower. They have a lot of firepower on the court at the same time from the three-point line. They can shoot them from 4 spots. And when you play a team like that, they're really dangerous in transition. So back to my first point, the more open court transition opportunities that they get, where they can find each other and, have multiple players be able to shoot, pass, dribble, that to me plays to their strength. So, I think getting back transition defense, valuing the ball, shot selection, which is kind of tied to that transition defense, that's really important for us. In some cases, playing against a good team away from home, that's always the case. And then the second thing in this is something that we've been hot and cold with. Better recently, still have a long ways to go to be good at it, and that's rebounding. Being able to create our own shots, second shots, being able to keep them off the offensive glass. I think they do a really good job of creating second shot opportunities, and that leads to three-point open threes. We've, in essence, lost, in my mind, 2 games this year where you can look at one area and say, if we would have done a better job of getting long rebounds or blocking out and keeping them off the offensive glass in a couple key areas, we might have left with a win, and that's Indiana and that's Gonzaga. And not that that didn't happen in other games too, but in particular, those 2 tough, very close losses. So, playing on an away court against a hungry team, a team I think that takes a lot of pride in that area, we have to be able to rebound. Guards, bigs, it isn't just Jack Nunge and Zach Fremantle. It's Souley Boum and Adam Kunkel. It's the guys that don't start the game, but we have to really compete, enter the fight, so to speak, and make sure that we are physical and we block out and can keep them off the glass. So I think those are our 2 areas. I wouldn't say areas of concern, but just 2 areas that we have to do a good job in to win the game. So we're talking about it. We're working on it. We'll see.
You mentioned UC's three-point shooting. I think they average around 25 attempts a game. It's a huge part of what they want to do offensively. What needs to happen on Saturday for your perimeter defense for that not to be a strength for them?
Well, we have to keep improving in all areas regarding that. That is our Achilles heel outside of our defensive rebounding. If you looked at us 3 weeks ago, we're moving in the right direction in terms of being able to rebound better. Again, not where we would like to be, especially with the team that we have, but we are better. We've made improvements. On the three-point defense, we've not made improvements. Even the last game, we went in down 7 points to West Virginia. At the half, they were 7 for 8 from 3. So in this game, if we don't defend the three-point line, it's not going to go well for us. So we have to be able to do it at 4 positions. Looking at them, DeJulius, Nolly, and Davenport, they take the lion's share of their threes. Obviously Nolly has had a game against Arizona in Maui where he made 9. If you make 9 threes in a college game, you're a heck of a three-point shooter. And you look at his percentage, he's shooting 43% from the three-point line, which is a heck of a percentage, especially where we are in our season now. So those 3 guys in particular, not that the other guys can't do it, but the lion's share of the damage comes from those 3, and matchups, being aware. And like I mentioned earlier, transition defense and defensive rebounding, do a good job in that area. Sometimes you can take away some open looks.
What's it like to walk into an arena where essentially everyone is against you? Can that have almost a transformative effect on your team in that you're in it and everyone else is against you? What's that like?
No, it's challenging. I mean, it is. You really only have each other. You talk about it, but, to your earlier question, how do you prepare for that? I think in some ways you just have to go through it. And that's why experienced players are so valuable in college basketball. Because if you think about it, even a guy like Souley Boum, Souley's new here to us, but he's played in his fair share of road games. So he's been through that. He's not as rattled. I think the poise and the confidence comes from experience. So, they're very experienced on their end as well. But, we're going to rely on those guys that are on our team that have been through these challenging situations before. And we have quite a few of them, playing on the road in the Big East, playing on the road in these types of environments. I think you really try to rely on their leadership to help a couple players on your team that haven't been through it before.
Jack, when you get a new guy in here like Souley, how do you explain what this game means to someone who's never experienced it before?
Yeah, I think, in a lot of ways you can't really, display the full feel of the emotion in the game without playing in it. You just kind of have to, constantly remind people about how much it means to everybody. The city's going to be jumping. It's just a very important game for the history of Xavier and UC.
Souley, I know that you knew about this game before you got here, but how long after you get on campus and you commit to Xavier does this game become a conversation? Like, when do you start hearing about this?
I started hearing about it when I first got here in the summer, even on my visit, actually. So I know this game means a lot to the university and to the city, so I just know the game means a lot. Obviously, I haven't played in it yet. I haven't experienced it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait till Saturday.
For both of you guys, who's the guy in the locker room that maybe speaks up before a big game, that sort of rallies the troops, if you will? Like, do you have someone in that locker room that really takes ownership of that speaks up in those moments?
I think it's kind of a collective. We have a unique blend of guys with experience and then also freshmen, and we have a lot of guys who've been through a lot of different situations. Someone who I think really can energize a team is Adam Kunkel, especially going into a game like this. He's a local guy. He kind of knows a little bit more than everybody, and I think he's a great guy to listen to in moments like this.
Jack, last year you got to play in this game for the very first time, and I sort of asked Souley about like people talking to you about it and trying to explain what it is. What's the reality like? What's it actually like to play in the shootout?
Yeah, it's just very high intensity for the full 40 minutes. Even going through warm-ups, there's just a different feel in the arena. It's really hard to describe, but you just know it's different. Everybody's super excited and pumped and just ready to, give it their best.
Souley, what sorts of things has Coach Miller talked to you guys about in relation to this game?
He knows it's the first road game. It's going to be a great test for us. It's going to be the first time this year where everyone is against us. So he just wants us to go in there with an even keel. We want us to go in there poised, knowing that everything's not going to go our way. So we have to stay together, take care of the ball, and just do what we do, and we'll be just fine.
Jack, what do you think the keys are to a game like this? Like, what Xavier wins if it does X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I think you just have to stay locked in for the full 40 minutes, as Souley just said. Not everything's going to go your way, especially in a road atmosphere. There's going to be some questionable calls. There's going to be a run. Both teams are going to make a run. The crowd's going to be cheering against you, and I think you really just have to stay, really poised. Just kind of focus on your team, stay connected out there. As Sue said, do what we do.
There's been a lot of talk about your defense and how that's still an area that you guys are trying to improve. Where do you feel like you guys are at in that process of cleaning up that end of the floor and really trying to make that a strength that complements your offense?
I feel like it's a work in progress. We know that we can score. We know our team is very talented on that end. But in order for us to win games down the line and just get better, we just have to continue to grow and get better. Right now we're the 80th defense, I believe, or something like that. And we just have to continue to make that number go down. And just me personally, I got to get better. And just as a collective group, we just got to get better and take it more personal and just keep growing in that area.
Souley, I know you're a new guy. It is the Skyline Chili Crosstown Shootout. What are your thoughts on Skyline? Have you given it a go yet?
Man, I don't want nobody get mad at me or nothing, but I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Skyline Chili like that, so I don't want nobody to get mad at me though. I'm from California, so I never heard of Skyline Chili till I got here.
That's all right, man. It's not for everyone. Jack, I know you're excited to have Souley here, a guy who can play the way he plays and how he really changes his team. But how excited were you when they brought in a guy and you were no longer the oldest guy on the team?
This is actually something I just found out probably like 2 weeks ago.
You don't know how happy he was when he found out about that. He said you're the only. He was so juiced. He was so happy, man. That's a great question though.
It's a good thing though, having a guy like this who's been through college and has the experience that you have and can really relate to you. It's a blessing.
Shootout week, year 2, does it mean anything different? Feel any different this year now that you've experienced a year of what it was like?
Yeah, I don't know if I've thought that deeply about it relative to last year, but it's different when you have some type of perspective and experience. And as I've mentioned this a number of times, it's as big time a game as we have in college basketball. Been really fortunate to be a part of some really, really cool rivalries and really cool games. And it's as good, if not better, than any game I've ever been a part of in terms of just what it means to people in the community and the energy in the building. And that was on the road last year. So that's the perspective. It's not just something you've heard about, it's something you've experienced. We certainly didn't play well last year. So that's kind of stuck with us for a long time. So I hope we play better basketball. And I'm certainly really excited to see what the environment's like here in Clifton.
This will be the first one at Fifth Third Arena since 2018 with like a full capacity crowd. I think it's the last time since 91 too. Have people talked to you about that? Have you talked to the players about that? It's going to be the first one in a few years for these fans.
We haven't. I mean, we yesterday we got back in the gym, got back in the weight room. Watched them with Brian, got on the floor and did what we do. We won't start our preparation with the team for Xavier until 2 days out, which is consistent with how we treat any game. So we haven't had a ton of conversation about the game yet. But guys, our players, they can feel that. They've been hearing about the Crosstown Shootout, about the Xavier game every day since they arrived here this summer. And, the guys that have been here are aware of it. And so they'll feel the build up and the energy this week.
Is it fair to say you've watched some film on them already? Is it fair?
I have, sure, yeah.
So my question is,
we get done with the game, we break down that film, grade it, and then I'll get on to watching the next team. That's consistent too.
so as you're watching them, they've got a new head coach. Their core is pretty much the same, but they've got some new pieces. How are they compared to the team that you faced last year?
I don't know if I've watched enough, Keith, to comment directly on that. I've watched a couple games, watched a little bit Sunday night, couldn't sleep. And I watched a game and a half yesterday. But Coach, I think whatever assistant has the scout, I'm not sure yet, and I'll spend a lot of time tonight and tomorrow, really trying to dive into the scout. But I'm familiar because we played against some of those players, and they're really good players. And I've watched Sean as a coach from a distance for a really long time, and I mean that in a respectful way. I just have so much respect for him as a coach, and his teams, his first time around at Xavier, his teams at Arizona, and I've always tried to study and learn from others, and he's a guy that I've looked at as I got into coaching. So he'll have them ready to play. He's done a nice job in a short period of time with that group so far this year.
I know you mentioned you haven't really had a chance to kind of watch a lot about them, but they bring in Souley Boum this year, who's really taking
That's the transfer from UTEP.
hit the ground running for them. He's a guy who can score, he can pass, he fills passing lanes really well. How do you prepare for a guy like that who can do whatever it takes to win at that position?
Yeah, I've, just from a distance, because if my hobby, when I can't coach and work on our team is to watch basketball. So, I've watched any game that's on TV in passing. I've seen him play. He's a terrific player. Like you said, a guard that can score the basketball, long, covers ground. We'll prepare like we prepare for any good player. We'll try to be alert to his tendencies and try to do a good job preparing our guys. But there's no specific game plan because we're going to see a lot of good players this year, and he's another one of them.
Coach, how important and how beneficial is it to obviously get some run for these younger guys earlier in their career than maybe some of us expected, but it can maybe be that onboarding and that way to get them some run that helps them in year 2, year 3, and really cements their status in the program?
Yeah, well, there's silver lining to any situation, and that's certainly the way that you've always approached coaching and always tried to get our teams to approach it is you can't control anything that's going to happen. Things happen. That's just life. That's just basketball. But you can't control how you respond to it. And generally, over the course of a season, all kinds of stuff happens. And if you respond the right way to it, it's going to be better for your program, not just long term, but in the short term. And like losing John and losing Rob, those are things that you don't want to happen. They have, but there's good things that come from that, even though they're things you didn't want to happen. And one of the good things is it's given opportunity to younger players, and it's given opportunity for older players to be in different roles. And guys will grow, and our team will grow, and our program will grow if we handle that the right way. So I don't think of, Josh and Dan and Sage getting meaningful minutes right now as just something that's good for 3 years from now. I think about it as something that's good for our team right now because they're talented, gifted players. They can help our team win, and the more they get out there and get in the fire and make mistakes and learn from them, the better they're going to be. And I do think those guys are going to be great for Cincinnati basketball 3 years from now. I think they're going to be great for Cincinnati basketball this year. And the earlier they get out there, the better.
I got a two-parter, I'm sorry. First part, couple texts on Sunday. You didn't seem to flip out about that. What is your approach as a coach to when a player?
Oh, technical fouls.
Sorry.
If you said text, I'm like,
Teeth.
what kind of text are you referring to? I'm lost. Technical fouls.
Correct, sorry.
And I say this out of great respect for Jared Grasso and Brian. He's instilled an identity there, a little edgy, a little wild at times. And I don't mean that in a bad way because they've embraced it. And I respect anybody that establishes an identity and gets the group to embrace it. But I think they had like 16 technical fouls in their first 6 or 7 games leading into our game. And, they talk a little bit. And you could see that on the tape. And so we tried to prepare our guys for that. Don't get caught up in that. So I knew there would be a little bit of that in the game. I thought we overreacted a couple times, and that's where the technicals come from, right? We lost our discipline a little bit. I don't overreact to that. We just address it, and we have accountability for it. Dan Skillings makes a 3 in the corner. Guys on the other bench were yelling at him, saying whatever players say to players from 3 feet away. And he reacted to what the bench was saying. So we took him out of the game, and, that's what we do when somebody gets a technical, especially at this point in the year. Told him we can't do that. And, I'm going to move on. I'm going to be next play. Landers was reacting to something in the game and got a technical for it. So we took him out of the game. We're accountable for it. And then we sit and film and try to explain why it's important that we have better discipline than that. But I don't think it needs to be something that's a huge scene. You don't have to embarrass a player. Some of the edge that our guys show if they get a technical, I like. We just have to find a way to have edge and discipline at the same time, and it's an opportunity to learn.
The second part, which is obvious, is a very emotional game Saturday. I assume it's even reinforcing that more and more that you can't let them let the emotions get the best of them.
Yeah, that's any game. Any game. How competitive can we be? How edgy can we be without losing our discipline? That's what we're talking about every day. And every time you cross that line, it's a chance to teach and learn. And I've learned this in it's been 12 years now as a head coach. It's not about freaking out and embarrassing people. It's about holding people accountable. And we'll have accountability for things like that.
Xavier likes to play 2 bigs a lot. Is that something you look at and think we want to? I know you're not going to give me the strategy part of it, but you want to.
Yeah, let's just talk about the game plan of the game.
How do you handle Fremantle and Nunge at the same time?
You have to prepare, right? They're playing traditional. I say traditional, 2 true post players, because you don't see as much of that anymore. We saw that against Arizona with Tubelis, and I can't remember the big kid's name down low. Yeah, Balo, yeah. So when you see that, it's different than what you're used to, and certainly what we're used to when we guard each other every day, the way we've been playing this year. So you have to prepare. You got to be ready for the physicality. You got to answer the bell on the backboards. And they do a lot of really good things. Again, I haven't dove too far into the scout, but they do a lot of really good things in their half court to kind of play off of each other. One's out there screening or dribble handoff, while the other one's kind of playing off of them around the basket. They do a lot of really great. Again, Sean's a great coach. He's played his system for a long, long time, and those guys fit into the things that he's trying to do.
You have 5 or 6 days to prepare for them. Maybe the advantages of that are obvious, but are there some disadvantages to having that much space between games?
I mean, you guys always think so much deeper about it than I do. I don't know. I hadn't thought about the advantages and disadvantages. You guys are going to get tired of this. I just think about, what do we got to do today to get better? What do we got to do to become a better team? Whatever the standard is for how we prepare for a game, it's going to be that way if we're preparing to play Chaminade or we're preparing to play in the national championship game. There's a standard, and we're going to try to reach it. The Crosstown Shootout's a big-time game. I'll never sit up here and act like it's not a big-time game. It's awesome. I mean, it's like the games you dream about coaching in, games you dream about playing in. We're not going to talk like that behind closed doors and stand in front of you guys and act like that's not the case. I think that's BS. But the standard for how you prepare is the same for any game, and that's what great programs and great teams do. That's how we'll approach this one.
You mentioned your respect for Sean and what he's been able to do throughout his career. Do you have any of a relationship with him at all? Do you guys have are you guys friendly or?
Enough to say hello, friendly over the years. Coaching, guys, is such a small profession. So we all know each other. I think, gosh, he might have been an assistant at NC State when I was playing. So, come across each other in handshake lines years and years ago, or you're on the road recruiting over the years, you say hello and that type of thing. But no, not a guy that I've been close with or have a great relationship with. But since he's gotten back here to Cincinnati, we've certainly, bumped into each other at events and things of that nature. And again, it's always been very friendly and cordial.
2 more questions. Talked about after the Arizona game, the make or transition defense after a make was a struggle. It was a little struggle against Bryant too. What's the problem there? What's the key to fixing that?
Yeah, that's a controllable thing. So certainly the type of thing that's going to drive me crazy, right? That's the stuff I'll go crazy about. We showed some tape of that yesterday, Justin. I think some of it's awesome. Like we make a 3. I think Jeremiah makes a 3 in our transition offense. And David DeJulius is excited that Jeremiah made a shot. He didn't make the pass to him. He didn't have anything to do with the play other than he ran his lane hard. And he's excited for Jeremiah to make a shot and for our team to score. Micah Adams-Woods is excited on that same play for our team to score. Listen, you got to step back sometimes and go, that's great. There's a lot of selfishness in our game, right? There's a lot of problems amongst teams. We don't have that. We got guys that are excited when their teammates score. That's awesome. So that part I love when you're watching the tape. But my message to our guys is, let's get excited when the clock isn't running. Let's get excited when it's a dead ball. But let's not take away from, hey, it's actually good that our guys are excited when something good happens for our team. There's a lot of teams out there that you watch and a teammate makes a shot and nobody cares because they just are worried they didn't make the shot. We don't have that. We just got to get some more maturity and understanding that we'll have a lot more fun and we can get a lot more excited for each other if we understand the time and the place, and we're still learning how to embrace that type of team mentality, but have those winning habits that we got to wait until the whistle blows and there's a dead ball before we can celebrate with each other. And I think that's the first step. The second step is a crazy sense of urgency to build the right habits to get back and communicate and transition. And, it's burned us in the Arizona game, in a big time game, even when we were trying. So we got to continue to build those habits in practice. And it'll be a major factor in the Xavier game because they do have an elite running game.
Any chance to contact or get in touch with new football head coach Scott Satterfield since he's behind?
Met Scott on, it's Tuesday. I met him yesterday, just walking through the hall. He was walking to an event. It wasn't that long ago that I was going through that same day. So I understand how crazy it is. I just met him and his wife and his son, said hello, tried to welcome him to Cincinnati and tried not to take too much of his time. I've sent him a text, he's responded, and 2 things about that. Number one, I'm thrilled that we have a guy in position. I know you guys are thrilled, so you don't have to try to figure it out anymore. But I'm thrilled for our student athletes on the football team that are still here and still trying to figure it out because that's a strange time. So I'm thrilled that we can now move forward, and that's great for our department, our institution. The second thing is, when I got here, Luke Fickle went way out of his way to help me transition. And I'll never forget that. So if I'm in any type of position where I can do something similar for somebody, I'll pay that forward, and I'll do that with Scott in any way that I can. And I've already let him know I'm here and I'm available, but I also understand what he's going through. And the third thing, I said 2, I got 3. The third thing is I think Cincinnati's figuring out you go get guys that were born and raised in North Carolina to coach, and things will be just fine. So I do like that he grew up, about an hour from where I was born, in a lot of the area that I grew up in as well. So I'm sure that when we get a chance to visit, we know a lot of the same people and come from the same part of the country.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, questions?
You haven't had the opportunity to play in a packed Fifth Third arena for a Crosstown Shootout. Are you looking forward to that?
Most definitely. I'm excited. I was just talking about it yesterday to someone. We played here during the COVID year, and it was barely anyone in here, and the atmosphere and the energy still felt different than the other games that year. So I'm excited to see this place packed out for sure.
Last year was a bummer. Do you pull from that game, or is it like, forget that game, clean slate, let's just pull forward? Do you pull from that one?
I think a little bit of both, because after anything, you just gotta move forward from it. Can't carry that baggage, but at the same time, we got great pride for this school and this city, and we got a couple guys that's been through some things, such as me, John Newman, Jeremiah Davenport, who's from here, Micah Adams-Woods, who this is 4th year as well. So we got some guys that's most definitely motivated and hungry to participate in this game for sure.
You played in some big town rivalry games, obviously, back during your time in Michigan. Just talk about how special it is. Obviously, open runs in the summer with guys from Xavier, played in the Smith League and whatnot. Just talk about how special it is to have that opportunity to have that open runs in the summer and then playing a big game like the Crosstown Shootout.
Oh, it's amazing. First, to have this opportunity in a great city such as Cincinnati, to have 2 historic programs play against one another, and we see each other all the time, as you said, over the summer. To be able to be a part of this amazing game, it's nothing but gratitude and appreciation to go out there and play hard for sure.
Any kid that dreams of playing college basketball has dreams of getting the moment like you got at the beginning of the game, getting the 1,000-point. What does that mean to you to be a 1,000-point scorer and have realized that dream as part of your career?
From a personal standpoint, it's amazing because first, it's a dream to be in college playing basketball, carrying out your dreams, but also being able to sit at a different table, being a part of a 1,000-point club is amazing. But you stop and think. It took a couple miles to get to this point. It took a lot of perseverance in situations. It took a lot of great teammates allowing me to be me each and every day, and it took a lot of great coaches putting me in a position to be myself. And I just give thanks to John B. Line, Juwan Howard, John Brandon, and ultimately Coach Wes for allowing me to be in this position for sure.
Had a lot of coaches.
I know, right?
So over the summer with TBT, you guys did a lot of, you and your team in Xavier did a lot of like celebrations, events, and things like that.
Yeah.
What's it like to kind of have those where you guys are friendly, obviously hanging out in those circumstances, and then come Saturday, you guys got to kind of throw that aside and get ready to play each other?
Oh, it was great. When we had our event over the summer, it was a little weird at first because you can tell the tension was there. So we didn't really talk to each other. But then we understood that it was about more than us. It was about the kids and what we were trying to do for the community. But now it's time to get back to where things are, and that's competing at a high level for sure.
David, with the emotions so high for this game, how do you, as a leader of this team, keep the team locked in and stay focused on the game plan and not look too much ahead and let the emotions get the best of them and everything?
Yeah. Well, as Coach say, I think he talked about this before our first game of the year. He was like, I know everyone is probably nervous, a little unsettled, and that's great. Nerves is just a result of being part of something that's special, being a part of something that's worth something, and that should be appreciated. But also, we shouldn't let them nerves get in the way of our main goals. We need to go in there with a level-headed and just implement what our coaching staff tell us each and every day, and that's play hard, play together, have a next play mentality. Everything else will take care of itself.
one of the veteran leaders on this team, and obviously some younger guys having to step up now due to injury, due to different circumstances. Do you say anything? Do you make a note of that to those guys? Are you vocal with saying, hey, we're looking to get more out of you guys, or is that something that just kind of goes without saying on the team?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because that's one thing I could say. I've been in everyone's shoes. And I talked to all three of them guys. And, you know, I was talking to, I think, Josh. I forgot which game it was. He came in, he hit a couple shots, and I just told him that's what it's about. It's about chopping wood. It's about coming in each and every day, working hard, having the utmost character. And it might not happen in a day, and it might not happen in a week, but if you just continue to carry out that mindset, it'll work itself out. And then you look and you got John Newman and you got Rob Fennessy hurt, two big pieces, and now you're asking for the freshmen to step up. And they have the great mind, they have the great work ethic to step up for sure.
Anything else?
Xavier, coach was talking about they have a good transition running game. Like the Arizona game is a good example. You guys played really well against a team that also played that way. Do you feel like this team is at its best when it's playing up tempo and running, maybe at least offensively?
Our team?
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Because we got a lot of players, a lot of guys that can put the ball in the basket and play at a high level. Speaking of me, Landers, Jeremiah Davenport, Dan. And when we had the opportunity to get up and down without having to think so much, I feel like it's a positive for our team for sure. But at the same time, we understand that they're great in transition, and we're going to have to shut that down. And I'm sure will be one of the emphasis in our practice for sure.
You don't strike me as a guy who needs added motivation to play well, but you've never beaten this team. Is there maybe some added motivation to be the guy that can lead this team past that team in your final go-around against them?
Yeah, for sure. You know, when I walked into practice yesterday, I said, you know, our fan base deserves this. They deserve us to go out there and play as hard as we can, play as smart as we can, because all that they do for us each and every day and the support that they give us is only right that we give that respect and that gratitude back, and that's by going out there and playing as hard as we can.
Good. All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.